Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dynamic Character Productions. We are joined with the winner of Trinity Falls, Vee. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Oh, so excited to get to talk to you today.
Aw.
And as always, Lily and Alex are here for the final time for our exit interviews.
How you doing?
I'm very happy for this one. This was one of my obviously I've said it so many times, one of my favorite seasons. It also comes with one of my favorite winners. Such a different way to the win than we've seen in any of our games before. So I'm ready to jump right in.
Ready to crack into it?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, before this game, V, you had mentioned in your final tribal you had played a Discord game before. So what was your strategy going into this game, which is a little bit of a different format in Zoom?
Yeah, so I'd only done one org prior to this, though I had spectated for a year, leading up to my first game and this game. So I'd spectated for a really long time. That's why I think in this episode I talk like I have done a few. I think that was misleading. It's just because I spectated a lot. Um, and obviously just like watching Survivor or whatever. So my strategy, because in my first game I was in a position of power throughout the game, and I expected that quickly I would be able to integrate into whatever majority alliance there was really quick. So I was very caught off guard by playing from the bottom. I almost like had this, not cockiness, but I was like, oh, that surely won't happen to me. And so it's very funny to me that that did happen to me in a really major way and never stopped being that way. My strategy going in, though, was to be able to integrate into the majority alliance, whatever that was by the time merge hit. The other big strategy I had going in was I felt in my only org that I had been too much of a social threat. I was seen as like a threat to win because of my social game that I was playing. And so I really wanted to make sure I was subdued enough. And then also in the first like 10 minutes of being aware of the cast, that was a strategy that I did maintain, is I wanted to make sure I never seemed, because in my interview or the cast assessment about me, they're like, oh, that girl has a big personality. She seems like really silly or whatever. I was like, oh, and then I can't, after I like kind of got the vibe of the cast, I was like, oh, I can't be like that because there's so many people here who are super social and like super big personality. So I have to be like, I felt like I had to be more subdued and a lot more like chill, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. To go off of that, your goal was to get in the majority alliance, and we see kind of quickly after the merge that you find yourself on the wrong side. How did you adapt your strategy or social game to, even though you're not in that majority alliance that you had hoped, not be their target?
Well, I had a real built-in shield in Lydia, not by any sort of strategy on my part, but it kind of was something I was able to roll with. And then the other thing I think I do slightly, at least watching the episodes, and then in the game I was aware that I I was verbally aware I was doing this, was I never ever throw out a name ever. Which usually when you're on the bottom, I feel like that's the time you're supposed to be throwing out names, but every time like it made my allies and Ben and Lydia, who were my two main allies in the game, extremely visible because they were so like wanting they were like very aware of that and were like navigating in a way that were like, we should do this person, we should do this person, we should do this. And I was like, okay, so I can't do that. I need to be extremely go with the flow, and if I can like be patient and wait to find a crack and slip into the crack. And that's just kind of how I perceived that and like what I feel like I had to do in the merge.
Yeah. To touch on your pre-merge game very quickly, we see, after the tribe swap, there was an opportunity for a clue to an idol, and you got it. And you're telling everyone at that first vote, all I have to do is say a phrase, and then I'm going to get an idol. So just so you know, which is there is a lot of strategy in that. But when we get to tribal, we don't see you say that phrase, which opens the door for Lydia. Talk us through why you decided not to just throw it in the first chance you could get.
Okay, let's talk about it, Alex. So I felt Alex's question to me was very hard I remember feeling like I don't know how I'm gonna get to, and Alex has touched on this in the past because he was having a dilemma that so many people had the hint that he felt like, how do I phrase it in a way that's fair and unbiased? I personally felt, even though I think I was the first person to be asked a question, but I felt like it was asked in a way I for some reason I felt like so nervous and I just chickened out. I very much wanted to, and you can tell in the episode, I'm truly trying to solve for time and I'm so embarrassed for no reason at all. I will say that I don't think that move had the strategy was to survive the vote and get people off me. So yes, I guess it was strategic in that way. But honestly, I'm not trying to be like I would love to sit here and be like, I was a mastermind of my own game. But like, I feel like that really wasn't long-term strategic or even medium-term strategic. I really feel like that was a short-term, like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And because it's a mini, you're so like, it feels like you're backed against the wall. I mean, even people who were probably never in danger of going home, you just feel like you're backed against the wall in the mini. So I think I just was like, I just need to try to survive this vote and then recollect after. And I was convinced I was going to do it and play the idol for myself. So yeah, when it came time, I just felt like I couldn't get the phrasing out. My plan was to do it right before votes and just be like, I got to say something really quick and then just cut my losses and say it because everyone knows I was going to say it anyway.
Right.
But yeah, Lydia, I heard it.
Good thing it happened the way it did.
Yeah.
It's sometimes the best things of Survivor is all about just like, it's not even what you actively do, but what happens around you and how does that implicate you in your game. And I think luck is such like a huge factor in these games, and like just being in the right place at the right time. And you had like that great timing of, you didn't get to have the idol. Everyone thought you did, so they weren't going to vote for you anyway. So you don't get the idol and burn an idol unnecessarily. Your number one ally gets it, plays it correctly. She then becomes the big shield for you for the rest of the game, almost solely based on that one idol play.
True. That's an interesting way to look at it. And it's so true that like, and that is Survivor is so much luck and timing. And that's such an interesting element of it. Yeah, that's so true. I never quite thought of it like that kind of did propel the rest of the Lydia of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess the big question is, right, it's hard to incorporate it in Alex's question, but you've already told everyone that you have to say a phrase. So even if the phrase was like bumblebees on my butt or whatever it is, like they know you're going to say it. So was it just your brain is working too fast, or were you still a little nervous to say something super obvious?
Yeah, it is the second part. I just felt it's so funny. It's silly. It feels silly now, but I just felt so uncomfortable with it, which is like, yeah, no shit. You're
fine. You're good.
we're like, of course you feel uncomfortable. It's like, but yeah, I felt bashful.
Well, and it seems like that move really bonded you and Lydia, especially going into the merge, having survived that vote together. You know, you guys didn't turn on each other, which it would have been very easy at that vote to do, to just turn around and say, listen, I'm going to get this idol. It's not going to be me. I'm good if it's Lydia. I'm good if it's anyone but me. But you don't do that. Did that ever cross your mind as Lydia's name kind of continues to come up through the game?
Yes, I would have jumped at the chance to betray her throughout the game because, and I think she would say the same about me. It sounds so cool. The thing is, and I know I don't think she talked about this too much in her interview, and this is just the game, but it is very challenging to fully display. Well, and this is just my poor reads, but we were being not iced, because you can't ice people on a mini because you're forced to be with them.
Mhm.
We were being very misled in a really great way. Like Lex, Low, the people who were in those power positions, players like that, Sarah, like, and Jon, like all these players were extremely good at convincing me at least, that they were with us. Especially Lex and Low are people that really pop out to me as extremely good at misting and extremely good at making you think that they're on your side. And that's a compliment to their game and the way they play the game of Survivor. Because me and Lydia, I remember going into tribal a lot of the time 100% convinced that I would not be on the wrong side of the votes, which is wild to think about. And like I don't know like fully if that's like a bad reads, right? Not fully like being like really taking time, even if it was 5 minutes, to like write out like, these are the tribe lines we're working with, and why would this person work with me? And really thinking it out, because you are scrambling so much. You're just focused on talking to the person in front of you. So I think that was a big reason why we're just kind of going to merge together, and why. And the other thing too is, sorry, I'm like yelling.
You're good.
Is there isn't a point until about final 6 where people who aren't me and Lydia are like, hey, so would you vote Lydia or would you vote Vee? It's not like that's an on the table thing. And it's almost like, because of the, oh my God, the duo of it all, because of that, people are just associating us together, and they're not giving us like bait to catch on to. I think both of us would have been 100% willing. I think probably why, and I don't want to speak for her, probably why she doesn't put my name out there, is that there just were bigger threats around. It's almost like, yeah. But for me, I didn't put her name out because her name was already out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the talk of duo, which is really, halfway through the game, there is a point where Lex is talking about, you and Lydia as a duo, and everybody comes in and he switches the narrative to Jon and Austin. And then it kind of blows up at tribal. Did this make you worried when you found out, oh, I'm being lumped into this conversation of duos and why they need to be taken out?
Yeah, I think there is a tribal where I say I'm really, at this point I'm like borderline angry. There's a couple points in the game where I'm like, oh my God, I'm like pissed off watching it. Like I can tell, I know myself, so I can tell I'm angry, and it's like, why are you so angry? But I remember during that tribal, I was so infuriated because like genuinely, because I felt like it's not like we're seen as a duo, right? We weren't actually. And I remember I have this moment where I straight up say, we are not a duo, shut up. I don't say that, but I'm like, get out, we're not a duo. And I worry in my head, I'm like, oh, Lydia probably feels so slighted by that. And Lydia was like, yeah, like we're not, like she totally like is with me in the like, this is bullshit kind of feeling. So, but it is an interesting thing of like, well, we were a duo. Like by all logistics, we're a duo. We always vote together. We're primarily working with just each other for the most part. It's never said. And so I left the game really reflecting on like, well, what does a duo make? What makes a duo really? Do you have to say it? No, you don't really. We were a duo.
And we see it kind of after this conversation when Lo is, starting her funeral music, that she's leaving, making her rounds. We see Jon pull you into a different room and make a deal. Like, you don't say my name, I don't say yours. Before this moment, we haven't really seen you make any deals, final, anything's really. I think other than the one with Ben earlier in the merge, but at this moment, was there like a core group that you ideally were going to the end with? And was this the type of move you were hoping to make forward, these like one-off deals instead of final 3, final 4?
Well, because up until that point, I felt in game that I was sort of biding my time until the majority alliance was going to like pick me off. So I was sort of waiting for somebody in the majority alliance, because at that point they're all very powerful players, is my perception game. they're all playing very unique games. They're all playing very dynamic games, and they're all playing really strong games. So I felt like, well, now I see like they'd be dumb to pick me off. And I think going back, if it had been a long game, I could have played that angle. Like, you're an idiot to pick me off. You're so dumb to think you can beat Emily or Sarah or Jon. Like, y'all are gonna go in together, like, have fun. I think I could have positioned myself differently, but I was just so hungry for anyone to work with me who wasn't my sweet Lydia. Like, I was truly jumping for joy at that. I would have taken almost any proposition at that point. I was truly desperate to it's just because I think it was partially because it was a mini, and partially just the way I was being talked to. It just felt like it was a steel trap, and I couldn't get in, and I couldn't convince people to want to work with me, because I was being misled and like lied to a lot, which, yeah, as part of the game, like, duh. But and what's funny is that conversation with Jon is the only actual deal I had in my entire game, and probably was the most important one. So because it did allow me to start, I don't know, having a little more agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you brought up, this is a mini, it's a very short game. You can only scramble. There's no messaging in this game. How different would your game have been if it was long, or if you had other options such as texting during rounds? Or do you think that you would have made more observable moves throughout the game had that been there? Or do you think it would have been similar, just longer or harder?
I think my social game would have been a lot better, because in the long games, I tend to be a lot better at the sort of relationship maintenance piece. That's actually where I feel like I excel. And so I think I have kind of had to go off impressions and the first impression vibe of a mini. And so I think it would have been better in that I could have, I also just would have had more time to, because in my long games, I tend to do a lot of planning, and I'll like diary out different ideas and really try to think through things and be more strategic about it. I think it would have gone better, but it's hard to say that because I did win.
Yes.
And I haven't won a long game, so maybe not.
Because it does seem, right, that throughout this mini, you kind of are paranoid. I'm not going to lie. It feels like every vote, especially at the beginning, it's like panic is coming across from you.
It's me, I know it.
Yes.
You know what said your name.
Yeah. So do you think this is where a mini helps you? Like, you can only panic so much, and you don't let your paranoia or worry about it being you overtake your game, whereas in a longer game, that's all you can do but be paranoid.
It's so wild you say that, because my last two orgs, I flopped because of my paranoia. Wow. I'm like, this is like therapy. I mean,
That's what we're here for.
wow. I think that might be it. Yeah, because I was paranoid it was me every vote, which is really interesting watching. I'm like, girl, no one was gonna take you out. You weren't doing shit all game. Like, no one's taking you out. Calm down.
I think a lot of reason why your name was in people's mouths, at least briefly, was because of the tie to Lydia, and the reason why anybody weren't willing to pull you into alliances is because maybe you would tell Lydia, and it was the perceived duo of it all.
Wow. Okay. I gotta like reflect on this.
Rewatch the season one more time.
Okay, I have a big what if for you, talking about how your name is out there a lot because of Lydia. What if you snag that idol, Lydia goes home that round pre-merge? Who are you trying to work closely with into the merge and forward, knowing that you don't have Lydia, and let's say knowing the tribe dynamics you knew at that time?
And this means Jonathan is in the game.
Yes, and Jonathan's
game. Okay, I actually think I would want to try to be with Jonathan, because I don't know if he would have me, but I him and I, like, well, for one, he thought I threw his name out. So I would immediately attempt to go. We had already kind of repaired that, but I feel like I really like in games when there's moments of emotional rupture and repair. I feel like that can often strengthen the bond. So I would have been like, oh, that's an in. And that would have been an interest point for me. Though in this scenario, I assume I voted for him. So maybe not that actually. Sorry, I'm like thinking through this what if as I'm talking.
No, you're good.
I do think like in the reality of the game, I continue to try with Lex, who did not want to work with me at all and made that very clear through voting and through discourse. And but at the time I was so convinced that Lex was with me and Lydia that I probably would have continued to try with him in a realistic way. I'm not saying that's the smartest decision or the most strategic. I'm just saying in reality, that's probably what I would have done.
Your talk with Jonathan, though, where you're just like, all right, let's cut the shit, was honestly one of my favorite scenes because you were just like, listen, let's be real here. Open up all the doors. All right, you're saying my name. No, I'm not. Wait, what? And then just you just hashed it out right in front of each other instead of
so
going
tense.
through people.
It was so tense. I was like, why is it tense right now? That's so weird. And I think that conversations like that, I like having those kinds of conversations where it's like emotionally genuine, where it's like it kind of we're able to like cut beyond like the like fun to survivor deceit lying fun games. I like being able to like whenever I can get that way with somebody, it's often like made us closer, both in my real life and also because conflict like can make you closer to people.
Yep.
And so I think us having that conversation and it allowed you saw like he opened up too. He was like, well, honestly, it's because I thought you threw my name out. And I was like, holy shit, like that makes me feel so like bad because I didn't and stuff. So I would have loved if it had been a long game. I do think that would have been a piece where I could have had more of that happening, which would have helped my social game because I'm better at those kinds of conversations where it's like a little difficult.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then to skip forward, I know I like brought us really far back in the game for that what if, but I love a good what if. We see you win the final challenge. Well, and final tribal, but we see you win the final challenge. And this is where I think we start to see a game that you like wanted to play the whole time. As a viewer, I have no idea what you're thinking because you're telling Lydia one thing, you're telling Sarah one thing, but it seems like you have a plan. And I know you had commented on the VL about what, your real thoughts were. So just wanted to pick your brain about after winning that challenge, what was your goal going into that last vote?
So I 100% knew I wanted Lydia to go home, love and respect. There's no way I'm taking her ever into my entire life to final tribal, in this game, with what she did in the game and the visibility of her game and the, player of the season of it all. It was never going to happen in my head. I knew immediately I would take Sarah 100%. Me and Sarah, like, I think that if she'd been in the same position, she should take me as well. It just was such a shoe-in. I felt like we were shoe-in for each other.
Yeah.
There's a moment where I remember Jon is talking to me and he's like trying to sell me on voting Lydia, and I was like, dude, this isn't necessary. But I understand, like, make your pitch. The reason I talk about fire making is, well, one, I am feeling very emotional at this point in the game. It's been a very long day. But also, I've spectated in orgs for a while, and I felt like I had seen fourth runner-ups poison the jury, / I was a fourth runner-up who intentionally poisoned the jury against my main ally because I was so hurt and bitter that they didn't let me fight for my spot for fire making. So I was really projecting onto Lydia that experience I had. And so I was very afraid that Lydia would go into Ponderosa and be like, don't vote Vee, do not vote Vee. Not doing a really good read, I think, of Lydia as a person. I had just met her that morning, but I that wasn't a great read.
Crazy to think, though, that you're like best pals by the end of it and crying to vote her out. But you met her that morning.
I mean, yeah, these bonds are real. Like, it's real. So I did not have an actual intention to give her fire making, but I really wanted her to think that I would consider it, because I wanted her to feel like I do respect your game. It seems not strategic now. I would argue it really wasn't a strategic thought. I never for once thought it would, and I know we've talked about this, I think, in reunion. I never for a second thought it would actually get that close. I thought for sure it'd be unanimous vote. So when Sarah considers doing that, I was like, oh my God, that would have been really bad. I'm glad that she, if I could go back, I would be like, sorry, Lydia. Sorry. Because now I know that she was never gonna do what I was afraid of her doing, which was poison the jury. And because the fourth runner-up has such massive influence over the jury because they were so intimately aware of the game. Like they were just there, and for her, she was just there 3 seconds ago. So
literally.
yeah, so I just I didn't know what I know now, which is that she was never gonna feel burned by me. And that I also think I did underestimate, and sorry to go on, but whenever I poisoned the jury as the fourth runner-up, my main ally was not, I didn't feel like my main ally really cared about me that much as a person. I think I did enough that day to let Lydia know that I care deeply about her as a person. And I think that was reflected in my emotion I had over her vote off. So I think I did what the emotional piece is something I think I added. So even if she had been like, I'm gonna poison the jury, I think she probably still felt care from me.
So, but what I found very fascinating about your win was like, because you keep like giving yourself your negging of like, oh, I wasn't strategic. This wasn't a strategic move. This wasn't a strategic move. A way to win the game, a way to play the game isn't just necessarily like, oh, I have to be the master strategist, make the move every here. It's like emphasizing your strengths. And I think like it's very evident your strength is very quickly and successfully creating these like legit emotional bonds with people. So even if they weren't working with you, they still felt good with you. There was never anything like ill will towards you as a player or as a person. So you get to final tribal, a lot of times people don't vote based off of the game that you played. They vote based off, did I like this person? Did I like spending a day with this person in this game? And I think it was something that you were very strong at doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it did occur to me like, okay, I do want to make sure I apologize to, because apologies was a big theme of Final Tribal. I know that. I was like, I want to make sure like if Lydia feels burned and then if Emily feels burned. And then it occurred to me like later, like, I don't think people feel burned. I don't think people feel burned by me. And that is something that, yeah, I appreciate what you're saying. I do think I have strengths in, I think generally reading people, but I think being able to speak to people in ways that make them feel not shitty is I'm okay at that. Or yeah, like feel like I care. Feel like I care. And the thing with this cast is I actually really do care. So it's convenient that I didn't have to fake that. So that's good.
It definitely helps. I think Alex touched on it briefly. Well, touched on it with, you being kind, but what other aspects of jury management were you focusing on when you went into Final Tribal? Because a lot of times, people have to think about, well, they voted these people out. But for you, when you touch on voting wrong, how do you address a jury that you didn't vote out? How do you manage that aspect of your game?
Yeah, going into jury, I had a really, going to Final Tribal, I was trying not to say, what do you guys want from me? You didn't want to work with me. I know that you don't get votes that way, but that is what I wanted to say very badly.
Yeah.
It's the sugar in you.
The sugar in me popped out. Yeah. I really wanted to say that. Like, what the fuck do y'all want from me right now? But you can't say that. So I had to be like, outlast, babes. And I had to be like, Yeah, and sorry, just my train of thought. But I think going in, what made Final Tribal easier for me is I perceived a simplicity to my game where because I didn't play a hand in voting every single person out, I knew the people I did play a hand in, I needed to hit those. So I think I wrote this in a comment that I made a list in the prep time I had of things I wanted to hit. I wanted to talk about how I felt like I was an underdog in the game. So instead of saying like, what do y'all want from me? I say, I rephrase it as I was an underdog and my Outlast game, and then being able to hit the Emily vote off and then the Lydia vote off, and kind of talk about loyalty, because that is a great buzzword, is loyalty. And the other thing about this jury, and I've thought about it since the game a lot, this jury is a social cast. They care a lot about that element of the game. And so I think me being, well, it's hard to say because Jon is a very social player and is extremely charming and very kind and warm to people. But I think there was being able to bring some of that warmth, I guess, or that emotional piece did help, I think, because I think I did get some votes that I maybe wouldn't have gotten otherwise, just because I was seen as somebody they wanted to win, right? Like, I think the underdog story did kind of ultimately trump.
There's also like there's a genuinity or genuine, yeah, I said it wrong, whatever. There's genuineness out of like how you approach it. And not saying that Jon isn't genuine, because I think he is, but sometimes when you're being genuine, I suffer from this sometimes as well, is it can come across more as being calculated and not being authentic. Whereas like with you and just your personality, people will look at it and be like, you're being real. Like you're being as real as you can be in a setting like this.
I also think, and honestly, this is how I view myself, is that I view myself as a game bot, and I view myself as somebody who cares a lot about the strategic elements of Survivor. Like that's like my favorite part of Survivor, but I come across, whether it's presentation or gender dynamics at play, or like just how I come across, I seem like very, and I think that is genuine, but I think I'm good at displaying genuineness. I'm good at displaying warmth. I'm good at displaying care. So I often am told that I'm a social player, or that I am like, I come off more unassuming. I really think that's part of it too, is that I do think I'm a little unassuming. And so I think when I get to a final tribal arena and I'm able to kind of articulate my game from that perspective, like letting people know, like, y'all, I do know what I'm saying. I swear, like, I know what I'm saying. I think that kind of helps because it adds legitimacy to it. And it's not just like, oh, she's like sweet. Not that anyone would think that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we see Jon go into this being like, I've got this in the bag, like he was very confident he had a majority of the votes, but we see your tribal performance really showcases, like Alex said, your strengths, but also you're able to kind of, I don't know, like take some value in your game and show what you did that people didn't see. Were you surprised at, I guess not at how well you did at tribal, but like, did you meet your expectation? Did you hit all those boxes that you wanted to hit during your final tribal?
Yes, because I felt very calm going into it. Like when I wrote out my little list, I remember feeling like, I think I'm ready. And it's very rare that I feel that way. So I figured, I think it's gonna go okay. And I know I'm okay at speaking. And so I like confident. I guess I felt confident. I think that's what I'm trying to describe, is confidence.
Well, I mean, and your confidence and your speech ability is what saved you at 6. to be able to get to that final tribal, to be able to reword your sentences in like, fuck you guys, who I'm the underdog, vote for me, please. So you are very quick on your feet. And I did see while editing, you just quickly go like and start writing things down, which I think proved very instrumental in your final tribal council, because you were hitting on certain points and not every point. Because Jon had, you know, so many things that he wanted to let people see, and you had, these are my really strong things that I have. Please vote for me.
Yes. And I do attribute some of that to Jon he had a lot, there was a lot more stuff, and I was able to be like, okay, these are the 3 things I'm going to talk about, because I had a moment where people love a blind side. Okay, cool. I got a unanimous blind side that I helped out with, or I was an instrumental part of that. Okay, yeah, I can betray my ally. What's good, you know? And then like, so I knew, I think I did have an awareness of like what is desired at a final tribal where you're trying to
your people perception in this game was also good, also there, because we talked to Jon, and you know, Jon was saying that he was trying to tell people all of his strategic stuff and not all of his social stuff, where you picked up everybody wants to hear about your social stuff. So like, that's also a credit to you as well.
Yeah, I think the jury was that they're like a little emo jury. They wanted a little winner, I think. Yeah. And that's good. So I think, yeah, that's the thing is I was trying to say is like, this jury isn't a bunch of game bots. Like the people in this cast are not like, okay, but who did it? Who was like you know, I think they and that was something that I realized like in the first hour, as I was like, oh, this is like a social ass cast. And they're like, that's the element of Survivor that they like, is the like, so the socio-emotional strategic game, the socio-emotional part being like what it seemed like the jury prioritized a lot. And also I did do my opening statement last, and so I was able to read the sense of like reactions. And so that was part of it too, in a logistical sense. I was like, okay, I'm not going to say that, and I won't say that. So I'm able to kind of, yeah.
Work on your feet.
Well, yeah, the notes for future players, if you get to Final Tribal, know your audience, and cliff notes are better than a full recap.
Well, and one last thing I wanted to point out during Final Tribal was your mention of, you know, you did not vote correctly a lot, and you use that as your strength. And I want to know, do you believe that being right in the votes matters? Or did you say that really to boost your own final tribal, that it didn't matter to you?
I do believe it matters. I said that purely, I don't know why I said that. I think I was just at that point wanting to argue with Emily for no reason. I think I just I was wanting very badly to defend myself. And with that piece of like, you didn't want to work with me, girl. What are you talking about? You didn't. How could I have been on the right with you? I had to boot you in order to start being on the right side of the votes. Yeah. So I think there was that element of like me getting a little bit like kind of like wanting, when you want to defend yourself, which I'm usually good at, like kind of calming down a little bit. So I definitely said that in a way of, I don't actually agree with that. I will say, however, because I think we've talked about this since, when your main ally idles out people and they go home, and you do wind up being on the right side of the votes for that reason, to me that counts.
Yeah, there's an asterisk there somewhere.
An asterisk there, the sort of idol of it all. But I definitely don't actually agree with that. I think what I wish I would have said is, you're right, but I don't fully see why that means that I'm not a deserving winner. Because if that's the game we're playing, then yeah, okay, then that's for your belief. And it ultimately was. important enough of a thing. But I also know, I feel like a lot of juries, to me, they want to see you like bite, like, or not bite, but like they want to see you be like, defend it. So I didn't want to just roll over and be like, oh no, you're right, I should have been in the majority.
Yeah.
I mean, if you clapped back a little harder, you may have gotten Lex's vote.
That's true. Well, it's funny with that question, because I also referenced the card Emily makes, the list of be loyal, be a good ally. It's just Sarah does it cooler than I did.
It was a good clap back.
Clapped back. I like waved back.
You did the you were right there.
Yeah.
Well, my last question before we go to Facebook, or if the two lovely hosts have any, is let's say you're going to host a book club. All right. You need a co-host, you need someone bringing the snacks, and you need someone bringing the drinks. Who are you picking from this cast to help with each of those?
We need somebody bringing snacks and drinks, and then a co-host, or just those two?
All three. Yeah. Co-host.
Okay. 3 roles. I'll have Luke on drinks, because I think he'll bring a really fun cocktail and whip us.
Is it because he's already in the bar?
Yes. So I think his palate is good for it too. And he's also I feel like he won't hold back his opinions. He won't be like, oh my God, like I agree with you. He'll like say what he really thinks. I want Ben as co-host, because I'm not very good at organizing and planning. I feel like Ben has a real organizational energy to him. So I feel like he'll help me with like logistics and like getting it on our shared Google Doc or Google Calendar and stuff like that. And then on snacks, I think I'm gonna have Austin on snacks.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. I feel like he's a little more quiet. I feel like he probably knows some like actually like, some really good local spots to pick up something from. And
you gotta keep the Ginger Alliance.
Yes, and some fun like probably some like Midwestern delicacies he could bring. That's my roster. Oh, a lot of guys. Ooh, okay.
I know that's not very.
What
I mean, like,
who's in the beverage book?
I felt that was too obvious.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recruit.
All right.
I like it. She's already in the book club.
Yeah, she's just there. She comes every meeting.
You know what, the girls had so much time to shine on this season anyway. You had to give the guys something.
Lo would pick our book.
Oh,
perfect.
There you go. McKenna, do you have any questions?
Yes. I want to ask you what your favorite challenge was. If I know you have an affinity for the breakout room one, because that's, I feel like, where you and Alex truly just bonded, was that one. But what other challenge was one of your favorites this season?
I loved the breakout. I know people every interview, they're like, you know what one I really like is the breakout one. That one was fun just because it was so like fast paced, and it just felt like that it just was so exciting and frustrating at the same time. I really liked the one I won. I thought it was really fun. Later that night when we all stopped, I did it again to like see if I could do it again, just because I thought it was like very enjoyable, like satisfying to do. Maybe it's because I actually completed it that I feel that way. And then I liked Suck and Blow a lot. But I really liked, you'll have to help me remember the one where you have to like hold the ping pong ball with the straws and walk.
Oh, Tilted Tower.
I liked that one a lot. Yeah.
You mean you didn't like Think Steady with the cups and the ping pong ball where you got the challenge advantage?
Oh my God. I didn't like that one. I also, okay, let me take a side with the scramble room one. I'm like leaning over in it, and after the game I was like, oh my God, my tits are gonna be like on YouTube, like fully leaning over in the shirt.
Oh wait, I can't believe we glossed over your advantage versus challenge, playing in the challenge, and you accidentally pick advantage.
I like you know how in like Survivor, like in the show, have you heard of Survivor? You know how like in the show they like, well, you can like winners at it and stuff. They'll like if like you can tell, like for example, Marianne in the last season, spoilers, there's moments where she's being silly and they're like, well, you know she's the winner because they don't play like goofy ass music when she's being silly. They play like different music, right? Because if she wasn't a winner, or if she was like seen differently, they might play like a clown tune behind her doing something silly. I was thinking about that and I was like, if I wasn't the winner, then if there was music here, it would be like dun, 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 dun.
Like, I think I still would do it even if you were the winner.
Throw them off the scent. Yeah, that was
Exactly.
you can literally see me being like,
Yeah.
I wanted to compete in the immunity challenge. I want that on the record. I wanted to compete. I didn't want to do that.
I think you would have been a force to try and beat Ben for that immunity challenge.
It's the feet one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I will say I'm kind of glad my feet aren't on YouTube. So I'm a little okay with that. But I do think I have some grippers, so I think I would have been pretty good at it.
Yeah.
At me, Ben.
All right, tune in for some social content. We will do the challenge with Ben and Vee.
Before we go to the questions, I do have to say, because we did touch on it a little bit, how did it feel to sort of be like parented by the co-hosts the entire game, being led to the breakout rooms? I always made sure you were the first person to vote so that we didn't have to worry about how do we get her in and out of the breakout.
That's something that actually shockingly did not come up a lot in episode, because nobody talked about it in confessional. Like, we have Jordan in our last season, Sahara Dunes, where it's very evident she is having a lot of technological issues, but Vee was our technology issue this season, but it was actually decently manageable.
Actually, well, I think part of it was we quickly had a system in place.
Mhm.
I'm taking credit for that. Like the system was, and then I think another piece, because when y'all said that to me of like, oh, people with tech issues tend to get booted quicker, I was like, what? And so I think part of that too was it was almost in game, kind of a fun quirk of me being in the game. So I think it being like not something that was inconvenient, but something where it was like people were like, oh, we were waiting for you, or oh, we know it takes you a second. It was almost like seen as like part of playing with me. That was an accepted, the vibe around it, at least in the game, was like, this is just Vee's thing, and this is part of her like situation. And I think honestly the way the tech issues got integrated into the game made it, and also I think it wasn't that distracting, because once I'm in a room, I'm like, okay guys, I can scramble, but I gotta tell my dad to pick me up if we gotta go early. So I think just making, and I would make jokes like that throughout the game, and I would joke about like Alex or McKenna or whoever like holding my hand to the main room and stuff. I think that allowed it to be like a fun thing and not like a, okay, let's put that girl out, because like that's a problem.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get right into the questions now. First question is from Luke. Vee, knowing you were the winner since the series began, was there anything that surprised you in the edit?
I think I say this, I think I said this at reunion. I was a little surprised about who voted for me, which feels so silly now, but I think I just wasn't, it was interesting to see who actually did vote for me. And that was like a part of it. I think I was pretty surprised by honestly how little my name was out there, which feels silly to say, like we were saying earlier, but my paranoia is so palatable during the games in any game I play that was definitely a thing. And then the other thing is I was so taken by Emily's confessional style. That was something, and everyone's confessional style, but I remember watching her confessionals and being like, oh, we were allowed to like have fun in confessionals. And like I think I just was so like scared and serious that I just had a very serious vibe. Kind of I think I liked how everyone had so much fun with the game. And I kind of wish I had fun, but I wish I had more fun within it, like more playful.
Yeah, for sure. The next question for you is from Sarah. Vee, my queen, what is a moment from the season that was not shown that you wish was in the show?
And this is not possible because it's like a mini. There's so much you have to get to. I think I really would have liked even more like quote unquote camp life type stuff. I know there's a part in the day where I like show everyone my frog poster that's in my room, and I like get up on the bed and like show them, and like I think just being able to like see more of the camp life, because I love that in the show when they don't always show that anymore, and I really love just seeing people like do like dumb silly shit. And I think those little moments were so small and so special, and I think that's why we're a really close cast afterwards, is those like dynamics that were formed.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking on that, we do have a question from Carrie, or two questions from her. But the first one is, do you have a favorite frog or toad?
Oh my God, no. I'm actually a bird watcher. That is my joke pride flag, because gay people love frogs. So that's like a little like sounds strange. I don't know. But every gay person I know likes frogs. Y'all comment below if that's true for y'all. But I actually don't know of like what?
Said where's the comment section?
Yeah. But that's kind of the joke, is like every gay person likes frogs. So I don't actually know much about frogs. So I'm sorry to disappoint.
Love that.
It's okay, but you will know this one, I think, a little bit better. Also from Carrie, what's your favorite style of dance?
Oh, that's a truly sweet question. I do competitive pole dance. I'm a big fan of pole dance. Obviously, I really like watching. I think I really like watching like partner dances, which I don't do a lot of. I used to a little bit. I think partner dancing is so fun. So like West Coast swing, Lindy Hop, and like tango, things like that are really fun to watch.
Awesome.
So I'd like to watch that the most, but I just don't do that kind.
Awesome. The next question is from Ben V with all the E's. I don't know if he did the same amount of E's that he put on the parchment for you to win, but who from our cast reminds you of a specific Survivor player and why?
Whoa, that's so good. Well, okay. There was so much controversy over Jon's Parvati comparison. Like, how dare he, but I actually do think Jon kind of reminds me of Parvati in a lot of ways. They kind of have that like playful, harmless, flirtatious energy, and they both play very dominating games. So I actually think that comparison was perfectly acceptable. I think Sarah reminds me a little bit of Michelle in a lot of ways, in the ways she's able, her social game, but also in the way Michelle has this vibe in the show where she's very like, what are you doing? And I think Sarah can kind of have that, at least in watching the episodes. Kind of the suggestion style, social strategy. I think Lo reminds me of Sophie, just in her vibe, and Sophie's one of my favorite players. Ben kind of reminds me of Tyson, honestly, just in the like humor like oriented style, and just his like, it's like a sort of like charged up energy. And also a little bit of like Adam. I think Ben has kind of big Adam vibes.
Yeah.
That was kind of a lot, actually.
Yeah. He also has a second question. Also to stir the pot, which host has the best vibes? Eye emoji.
I was with Ian for my confessional. Ian did my confessional room or whatever.
Yeah.
And I felt like, well, of course, y'all have the best. But I remember feeling like the way he would ask questions chilled me out, and which is hilarious because it didn't work actually. But I remember looking forward to that and being like, okay, this is like my Ian time, and I can calm during this, or I can like let it out. So purely for selfish reasons and what he gave to me during the game, I'm gonna put Ian. I'm gonna say be controversial and say Ian,
Ooh.
which is
Well-
messed up because mom and dad brought me all the time to the different rooms.
No,
But
it's a good
Ian
answer
is
regardless.
what, yeah. Ian is, if it wasn't one of us, Ian is a good answer.
And I mean, he is the one who complimented you on your paperclip earrings
Yes.
during the game.
He's taste.
Yeah. Next question is from the unofficial official VL Victoria Fung. Congratulations on your win. Do you have advice for how to maintain your level of gameplay after a long day?
Well, first off, Victoria, thanks for choosing me as your player of the season, or your your player. I would say I did drink a lot of caffeine that day. But something I do think I did was I took breaks when I could. Like there's times where I think I'm straight up on camera, but I'm on my phone or I'm like I'm not talking, which is like in those moments where, like after tour where we're like not allowed to talk game, I think people were still talking, like they were still socializing, which is smart because you're still in the game. You should be doing that. And I remember I would like do something else and I would be like, I shouldn't be doing this. But I think it wound up kind of helping me because I was essentially taking a bunch of mini breaks throughout the day. So I think that's something I definitely took advantage of, and it wound up helping me because
And we do let them pee and like take a break, and like it isn't just go the entire time.
Kidding.
I don't know. McKenna even stops at tribal because she had to eat.
Hey, I was hungry.
Yeah. You'll see that more at tomorrow's reunion. But our last question from Facebook is from not your duo, but your duo, Lydia. Vee, my love, do you prefer minis or long games? How do you feel like your gameplay or skill set differs from each type of game? We sort of touched on the second part of that question in your interview, but we could talk about that first part. After having experience now playing longer format games and the minis, which one do you think, like at the moment, you prefer more?
I think because I'm in a long game right now and I'm not enjoying the people I shouldn't say this on camera. I'm not enjoying it so much. And so I would think a week ago I would have been like, oh, a long game for sure. But because to me the most like important part of the orgs and my favorite part is I've walked away from every org I've done so far with truly lifelong friends. Like truly, I'm not just saying that to be corny, like truly every game I've done so far I've had those bonds. And the fact that I was worried with a mini I wouldn't be able to get that, the fact that I've had that happen to me in a mini makes me want to be pro mini now. Like pro mini, we did it. Yeah, I just think the fact that the thing I got out of long games I can still do in a mini makes me really wanting to do another mini because those lifelong bonds can still happen. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Absolutely. And that wraps up our Facebook question. So, Lilly?
Yeah, we always like to end our exit interviews with the same question, and that is if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why? And I'm gonna caveat, it can't be like winning or winner.
I was just gonna say, if you didn't, I was.
I know y'all did this every time, and I completely forgot that y'all did this at each episode. I would say quiet.
Yeah.
For
Alrighty.
sure.
Love that.
Well, you may have been quiet, but your win's loud. And we love having you as our reigning DCP winner, Soul Survivor. You earned it. And that does wrap up our exit interviews for Trinity Falls. We're not done our content completely yet. Tomorrow night will be our last thing, which will be our reunion, where we get as much of the cast as we could together. We go through stuff about the season. We have our blooper reel. It's a great time. Please check it out. But also remember to follow us on all of our social media that you'll see at the end of every one of our videos. Join our Facebook, join our Instagram. You'll see more secret scenes coming up on our Instagram. as well as just fun content because it's our off season now. And with that, like the video, press subscribe, click that bell for all notifications so you know when all of our DCP content drops. We are Dynamic Character Productions. That is our winner, Vee. And we'll see you next time.